And like that, we're live. Good morning, Philip. How you doing, buddy?
My sister Sandy just wished Philip a good morning.
Oh, that's
How
right,
about
because
that?
I think he said good morning before we actually got on air. So what I noticed, Paul, when I said "uh-oh," was I kind of jumped the gun when I switched to the thing, and so they saw the end of our conversation there, where I was like going, "All right, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and do this. Let's go," because
Oh, that's
it was
awesome.
yeah, and then it switched to
The
the
hot
title.
mic moment.
Yes, they got in
Oh
a
man,
hot
I wish
mic.
I'd said something totally inappropriate about
You might
politics.
have, because I don't remember. Like, remember we talked about this?
No, but it would have been awesome.
Like maybe I'm not a cat or something like that. We could have been like, I'm not a cat.
No, clearly it would have been something about Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yeah,
and
clearly.
and a reference to the fun farm.
So we were talking two things. One, I was talking about how I'm actually learning how to learn again. That was my first thing I was excited about. I had to actually learn how to take
You know
notes.
what's a weird thing, Mikey? Is I started learning piano during the pandemic,
Uh huh.
and most of my friends who are like, because I'm older than you, most of my friends were like, "Man, I think that's so great that you learned something new in your 60s." I'm like, "What the fuck?
Is my life over? What do
How
you
hard
mean?
is that? Am I supposed to be sitting with a fucking bib and eating baby food and sucking in sugar through a straw?"
You're definitely not supposed to be a bother for the young people. That's what the problem. You don't be a bother on the young people.
Hey, man, I've had to deal with the young people my whole life. I'm not going to be a bother to them, and I prefer if they were not a bother to me. Because frankly, I didn't care for young people when I was young people.
Right.
I liked older people when I was young people.
Me
So
too.
now that I'm with older people, I'm way more comfortable with older people. And young people, they can stay their way. I'll stay mine. I'll be cool, man. I won't
And
fucking
we're
tell
inching
you
up to that
anything.
threshold where people that are older actually start to have dementia and stuff, and you don't really want to have a conversation and hang out with them anymore because they keep having the same conversation.
You know, it's a funny thing that does happen, and it's a heartbreaking moment. But I just had lunch with my old friend from Cowboy Mount, Steve Walters.
Of course, right, right.
And Steve is one of the most talkative guys I ever met.
Does he still
I
sound like this?
envy
Hey,
his
man. Hi, hey, how you doing?
still sounds like that, yes, and he's still. But there's a habit he has. Like he tells a story as if he remembers it in sequence. So Fred sort of figured this out early on in Cowboy Mouth, and hey Steve, remember that story about? And Steve would start telling the story, and about a quarter of the way into it, maybe even a little more than a quarter of the way into it, Fred would stop and ask him, "Oh, are we going to get pizza afterwards?" And Steve would answer the question, and then he'd start the story again, but he'd have to start from the beginning.
Oh, no.
It's
We
how he
could
was.
only
He had
tell
to start from
it.
the beginning. So he'd get about the same place in, and Fred would say, "Oh, did you bring new bass strings for this gig or what?" No, I didn't get new bass. Because then Steve would know he was doing it to fuck with him, but he also would have to start over from the beginning. So, he's also one of the most intelligent, knowledgeable, handy people I ever met. In fact, one of his favorite stories about me, because I'm not handy, I'm
No.
not a handyman. My wife Allison often jokes, get one of her sons Adam over because Paul's not a handyman. I do many things well. I'm not a handyman. When we were in the band together, Steve does still voice, and he had that voice then. It was 1983, and I had a Fiat, and it was always breaking down because that's one of the best things about owning a Fiat is that they always break down, and you get to learn a lot about cars. And I was underneath the car waiting for the band to arrive for rehearsal at my mom's garage, and my mom was standing there with me. It was a hot day, and I'm looking at I don't know what because I've never been underneath a car and wouldn't know what I was looking at if I was looking at. And I figured I got to do something, so I said, "Hey, Mom, hand me a tool." And she goes, "What kind of tool, son?" I said, "I don't know, Mom, a wrench or something."
Cool.
And then I hear Steve's unmistakable voice say, "Why don't you give him a hammer? He'll do just as well with it."
Of
And
course.
I come out from underneath the car, and Steve almost pisses himself laughing because I'm wearing oven mitts so I don't get my hands greasy.
You know, it's funny because I remember being younger, and I did actually do some working on my cars for a minute, but I'm not really built to work on cars. I don't have a whole ton of hand strength or whatever. I'm long and lanky, and anyway, I
You
can
do what you're
reach
supposed
stuff.
to do.
Yeah, I can
And
reach
yeah,
stuff.
we
But
started this though.
anyway,
We
I was gonna
started this
say
conversation.
I start to do a
Yeah.
wrench thing, and then it ultimately it's gonna slide off whatever nut it's on. And my knuckles are gonna fly into something that it wasn't supposed
You
to
know, I
hit.
feel better about you saying this, Mikey. I feel much better about my own inability that you're copping to you.
Yeah, I can't
In fact,
underneath
you
the
know,
hood.
I think I told you this, but when I was out, last tour I did before the world stopped, my surgeries and all that stuff, and the pandemic, I was in California, and I have a friend, Wes. He's a school teacher out there, and he's one of the coolest guys ever. We go see action. He's like my West Coast Luis. Any new action movie that comes out, man, we're there, and we're at the Grauman's Chinese Theater for it. So good stuff. And I had gotten T-boned in my Heart Renovations van right before I left for California, and it got fixed. But somewhere in Arizona, the door started coming loose. Like, wow, my door's a little loose every time I close. That's weird. I hope it doesn't fly off on the interstate because I don't know how to fix a door, you know. So I get to LA, and I tell Wes, and he goes, well, just get your ratchet set out and I'll fix it for you. And I said, I don't have a ratchet set. he
Right.
he goes, you traveling around the country and you don't have a ratchet set? I'm like, well, I wouldn't know what to do with one if I had one, but I suppose I should have one if you think it's that vital. And he says, yeah, absolutely, man. You can't drive around the country without a ratchet set. So he goes off to teach a day of school, and I go off to, do silly things around Los Angeles, come back around dinner time, and he has bought me a brand new top of the line ratchet set, briefcase, the whole deal. And he goes, man, I'm going to help you fix your door. And I was just like, I can't believe you went out and spent this much money on a ratchet set for me. It's unbelievable. I'm not going to let you help me fix my door. All right. It was nice of you to buy me the ratchet set. I'm going to go down there. I have the tools. I can look it up on YouTube. I can fix my door. So I get down there, and I'm down there about 10 minutes when I call him up at the house because it's a big house, long walk down the hill too, because that's how LA is. And I said, hey, Wes, I'll still fix the door myself, but can you come down here and show me how to open the case the ratchet set came in? I just couldn't figure it out, man.
That's yes, Shmoo. Yes, AAA. My buddy Adam has AAA as well, and he swears by it. But then it just went up this month or something. He was calling me up bitching that his AAA went up. So he called him up, found out it's like one of those yeah, all of them are raised. It's across the board, whatever.
Whatever,
Whatever. It's always they always.
It's
squeeze
like
in a
Joe
little bit
Pesci
more.
says in Lethal Weapon, they fuck you at the drive-through.
They fuck you at the drive-thru. Speaking of which, for whatever, I think you talked about something that made me think about the Die Hard movies, and how I just saw that last one where he has a son all of a sudden, and it's not really a Die Hard
I'm
movie.
not crazy about that one.
It's not even a Die Hard movie.
I like that actor. It's not a Die Hard movie.
It's just not a Die
It's
Hard
not a
movie.
Die Hard.
Yeah, I mean, he's
No.
not even John McClane in any way that you recognize.
In any
It's-
way that you recognize.
It
He's
was really
just stiff old
strange.
Bruce Willis Republican asshole.
Yeah, that Bruce Willis, not the
I
one
mean,
we
that,
like.
that part was in my head. I didn't mean to
It
say
just
that
yeah,
part
it
out
just
loud.
came out. No, I mean, because McTiernan.
No, I was a big fan of the series. The entire series managed to make itself. I mean, you knew it was coming, but it was great. It was
It was
great.
fun,
Samuel
great
Jackson
action.
fun,
Yeah.
great, yeah. And this one, like you said, it wasn't like a Die Hard movie. It was really disappointing.
It was really
Because it wasn't like John McClane. Yeah, I would agree.
I barely made it through the movie. It
Yeah.
became like just background noise at a certain point because you really can't. It's like this isn't. I don't understand what this is, but it's not a Die Hard movie.
So I cut you off earlier as I often do to people. You were talking about you're learning a new thing.
Yes, I'm learning a new thing.
You're back in school, as it
I'm
were.
back in school, as it were, and I discovered, I know how now to take notes, and because I forgot about this, like when you're learning something, especially I don't know if it's being older or if it was like this when I was younger, but you do it and you think, yeah, I got it because I just did it, and then you try to do it a few days later and you're like, I don't remember how to do it all the way. I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. And anyway, so now that's why I'm taking notes, and I'm getting pretty good at it. I'm like, I feel like, hey, look at this, I'm learning how to learn again. And
I'm very impressed with your ability to. I mean, you're learning a whole new thing. You were video for
trying to,
all the years.
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
were audio rather all the years I knew you, and now suddenly you're branching into video, and you're doing it really well. And
Well,
watching you learn, it's like watching the Beatles release albums. It's leaps and bounds every time I
leaps and
talk to
bounds. I'm
you.
not so sure about that, but I will say, the movie Netflix movie Army of the Dead, which probably isn't your kind of movie, but it is a Zack Snyder movie.
I can tell by the title, it's
Trailer?
probably not.
No, but I think it would be because the funny thing is it's the heist movie, and it has these characters. It's one of those ones. It's remember like the old James Cameron movies where you have all of these characters that fill sort of these roles. It's a fun movie,
Roll.
huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know what I'm
Obvious
saying?
roles.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
obvious,
you
right?
have
Right.
well,
I
there's certain roles that are obligatory in action movies.
right, and
They
they
have to
just
be
put it
there,
right up
especially if it's a
front.
high. You know early on which guy's going to be the guy that goes, man, I can't take it, and he shoots somebody, and he
Right,
knows who's
right,
going to be angry about that and shoot him, and who's going to
right.
think, calm down, everybody, man, calm down. Let's not turn on each other. It's the same movie with different character names.
Right, but in kind of in a soup,
Hollywood calling me any day now to tell me how much they love me.
but kind of in those superhero ways, right? Too, like what was a great movie that was like that? That was terrible. Was the Stallone one like the un?
Hey, back off on Stallone, man.
I know. What's that movie he did with all his buddies? He was doing them
Oh,
himself.
the Expendables.
Expendables, right? So it's like where you got the guy who's this is the armored specialist, and this is the guy who does this is probably the coyote who gets you in to the area where they are,
Right,
and
right,
blah blah blah
right,
blah.
right.
So it's a fun movie, and then but the way they filmed it was the thing that is the new stuff that we're playing with. They went and actually they use this thing called LiDAR, which is these radar stuff, and they go and actually just map out the real Las Vegas for the computer, and also
Wow.
take pictures at the same time, and they mesh it all together, and inside of the computer now you have this representation of Las Vegas Strip that and I had watched the Lord of the Rings commentary a couple of weeks back, just kind of remembering how they did. That was 20 years ago, right? 2001, 2002, I think. So that was 20 years ago that they did those movies, and the way that they had to do it then, it took months to because they would do it the same way. They had these little armies, right? Half the armies were like computer generated stuff. You knew that, right? Like they have a
Right.
bunch of people in the front,
Yeah.
but then it goes on for miles, and that's all the computer shit. And they had figured out ways
Right.
to make that work. Anyway, what took them months to do back then, they're talking in the special features for this that it took them a day to get all the movements that they needed to build the army in the mocap suits. They just had 8 people working, and within one day they were able to get all the different movements they needed. They were able to get all the they'd have them dress up and all that stuff like that, and they were able to get all the textures that they created, like which is the way they all look. They were able to get that done. Like I think they were saying it was like 7 seconds a person. It took way longer to get them all dressed up and everything, and in makeup and stuff before they loaded them into the computers. And
Crazy.
anyway, yeah, you look at the way they did Legolas and those guys for Lord of the Rings, and it took forever. And they were just playing with the technology; they were learning it. But now, anyway, it's becoming now it's just becoming sort of a process, and they pretty much know what the process is, and it's kind of interesting. I mean, like it's interesting and cool, and of course, it's going to create a bunch of new work.
Can, but you can begin to understand why the aliens in Galaxy Quest thought those were historical documents.
Right, right,
Because back then they actually still shot and blew up shit. There was rocks and you
right,
know
right.
it wasn't computer generated. If it was computer generated, the aliens would have gone, "Oh, we can see all the digital stuff y'all did in megabytes."
You know how most of them
Whatever.
use it. Like in Lord of the Rings, I don't know, all those beautiful vistas, those are mostly all matte paintings. So they did do a lot of shots of the sun, but most of that's paintings and stuff for the sky. And it's sort of the
At
same.
least it's a painting. At least that still has some
And they
involvement with
used
art.
miniatures, like all of that stuff.
And it's not fair of me not to call this art because it's virtual reality is art. it gets really loosey goosey as to which part of the world I want to belong to.
Right.
Do I want to stay in my little tube and feed people with my energy, or do I want to take the other pill and come out and realize, hey, life's pretty fucking hard. Maybe I should
Right.
stay in my tube.
Right. Um, yeah, VR is interesting, right? You start to wonder.
Matrix reference. I don't know, by the way.
Remember the sim thing that everybody was doing? Remember everybody would be like, I remember it was like, I guess 10 years ago, they had sim cities and stuff like that where you'd create your own little city and you had to make it work. You know,
Yeah.
um, but now doing it with VR and stuff like that, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of, have you played with the
It
goggles?
used to. No,
Me either. Me either.
I have questions about that. I mean, it might be fun. You look like an idiot, so you can
Yes.
clearly only play it alone.
Yes. It's
It's
not
not
meant
like
to be.
your wife's going to be sitting in a corner reading the Eleanor Roosevelt biography, and you're going to be over there with a helmet on, going, "Yeah, yeah." it's it's unseemly if I were 30. At
Yes.
60, it's come and take him away time.
Right. You think it's bad when you see people walking down the street talking to their cell phone. You're like, is that guy okay, or has he got somebody on the phone? We
Oh,
don't.
she knows I'm not okay. I had that spine surgery in 2019, and I found out from the surgeon that it was the same surgery Peyton Manning had, when he had to have his spine surgery. And so I was prepared. I was telling my wife I started working out. I was going to challenge Drew for the starting job. I figured Peyton got that surgery.
You
He
can do
came
it
back and
too.
won a Super Bowl.
Like,
I
I got
figure
this.
I might have one season in me, one Super Bowl in me. I think at the time I was still in my 50s, so, it wasn't like it was impossible, but she talked me out of it. Uh, but I think, with that plate, with the same plate that Peyton had, magic could have happened.
Yeah. It's funny. You when you picture yourself in that, you're Drew. It's not like you're like, I'll come back and I'll be Ruben Mays and we'll win us. It's not that you're
Well,
the
he was
tackle.
quarterback. Peyton was quarterback.
No, I get
Peyton was
it.
quarterback.
I get it. I get it. But that's
And
you
I
look at
knew,
yourself as the captain of the team for sure, right? I
well,
mean,
I had a pretty good sense of timing and route running in flag football when I was young.
yeah,
Not flag football, really, touch football. Really street football.
street football. Yeah,
When you could say go 10 paces and take a right behind the Buick, reach over the hood, you can't cover it.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Now I usually wound up. I was a receiver on those kind of things. I was tall, so it was really just throw it high, and I had pretty good hands, so it was like just throw it high, let Mike jump. He'll jump up there and
Yeah,
get it.
that sounds way more organized than the kind of football that I was involved
Oh
in.
man, for
Anyway,
us it was crazy. We literally had 5-on-5 teams of tag football that we'd play in this dead end corner. It was like it wasn't any joke.
oh, wow.
They
No,
had people
no,
waiting on
no.
the side for their turn to come play whoever won, and you'd keep turning it over like that all day. Winners
No,
play
we played
winners,
in the,
and
sh- and there was only so many. We played with the kids in your block in the street with your brothers and sisters. And
this
we were
was like
playing
about a
barefoot.
5 block radius of kids that all sort of
Yeah, that
met
was,
in the middle for this kind of thing. It
yeah.
was eventually kids
I
move
didn't.
away and stuff, but I do remember I think we had a good 5 years going where it was
But
just
you lived out in the country, right?
no. This is back when I lived off of Crowder and Chef, so it was
Back then, they had trees and stuff and everything.
they did have trees on Crowder, but we were on the neighborhood side, like going towards the plaza. We were like on the other side of Crowder towards Reed. That
Did you go ice
suburban
skating
network.
at the plaza?
Oh yeah, I definitely did that, and we did the food court all the time. There was always food court stuff going on with the dang plaza. Oh, but we were talking about the way that they filmed that thing, and anyway, yes, that movie it was fun. I think you actually might even enjoy it. Dave Bautista, Drax, he's the star of the thing.
Well,
Um,
I'm starting to like more and more stuff that you and Louise had turned me on to. I was surprisingly impressed with that movie Synchronic. I don't know if you ever watched it on
no,
Netflix.
so it was good. I think somebody had mentioned it.
I watched it strictly because it was my buddy Carl Palmer had a couple of scenes in it as a sheriff, and I always watch his movies. But I quickly got involved in it. You know, it's kind of a science fiction thing, but it's also sort of really a, a nice human story
Nice.
about Anthony Mackie, who's from New Orleans. Anthony Mackie's awesome,
Dude, he is
and
in
his
everything on Netflix. It's like it's crazy, right?
yeah, love, and he's got the most charm of an action star as a young Will Smith.
Did you
And
see
he's
that
got
one
this
with him
partner.
called Beyond the Line or something like that?
I haven't, but I will, I'm sure.
He plays a
So,
synthetic human like during war. It's like Netflix just came out like 3 months ago or something
oh
like that.
wow.
Uh, he's great. He's fucking great. It's got the superhero
Yeah, I
vibe.
mean, watch Synchronic and tell me what you think. I think it's a really cool story with some really cool, science fiction things going on.
You know what's interesting is Netflix. I will give them this because I've always thought that they're getting better. Like to me, like their movies, you could always tell they were B movies with the plot or the way it ended, or it was always like it looked pretty good, but
I think it was when they first came out, it was just like bang, they were so much different and so much cooler than anything that you sort of had access to, like with HBO, what they had at the time, and so on and so forth. That they came in big with some big name movies and some great
like
series,
that one with Will
and
Smith is terrible, right?
yeah,
Terrible. I mean, there's so many terrible movies. But go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
they had a period of really just like banging it with a great Marvel series, and they were
No, I'm
just
talking about
sort of
Netflix. They
king
don't
of the
have any
world.
Marvel. Oh, you're
Yeah,
right. They did. They had the Marvel stuff, right?
they had a period where they were like the kings
Hmm.
of that new genre.
Yes. Yeah.
And then everybody else just stepped up their game. And at the same time, there must have been a change in leadership or something at Netflix because they got real average. They
Hmm.
went from wow to I can't find anything here I want. And then
Right.
I started finding other places to watch stuff. And I've gone back recently and found some really great stuff. It seems like they had a real resurgence during the pandemic. I
Yeah.
guess they knew folks were going to be watching.
Well, the who are the brothers that did Endgame and the Avengers movie, the Captain America Russo brothers. So they're the ones
Yeah,
who did this Beyond the Line movie or whatever. Um,
I'll check that out. I like their movies.
yeah, it's a well done movie. It's not great or cathartic, but it's good action movie and it has a decent. It's original characters. That's the other thing. It's like trying to
You
find
know,
something that's original these days.
when we talk about all these superhero stuff, Allison really likes a drama,
Right.
and so last night we watched Osage County with I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's Meryl Streep, Julia Roberts, Jim Cooper's an amazing actor, Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange, Julia Lewis, another amazing actress.
Wow.
So it's just
Where what
Sam
was this? What is
Shepard.
this on?
It's on Netflix, I
It's a
believe,
Netflix movie. Okay. What's the name of it again? For all our.
but it's old. I mean,
Oh,
it was a theatrical release probably 6 years ago.
gotcha.
Julia Roberts and Meryl Streep were nominated for Academy Awards for their
What's the name of it
performances, and
again?
they were both Osage County.
Osage County. Okay. I can't believe I slept on that one.
Well, it's drama and it's heavy, man.
No,
But
I usually keep track of
watching
everything.
you're watching great actors go at it. Like
Hmm.
nobody's nice.
Right. Right. And look, I do love dramas and comedies, and it's not. I know you're right. We talk about these particular action movies often because they're fun and they're definitely.
So we don't have a guest today, man.
We were.
What we were gonna do Frenchie. What
Frenchie, and
happened?
we may still do Frenchie. It's kind of my fault between the doctor's appointments of the last
Uh,
couple days,
it was a tough week for doctors.
and then like yesterday after my doctor's appointment, I was wiped out. I wound up taking a nap for a while, and then by the time I got up and started reaching him, it was just I don't know. I
Yeah, I didn't
couldn't
feel
reach
like
him.
doing anything after mine. It wasn't,
By
I
the way,
hadn't
did
gone
you
as I
want to?
felt.
Everybody's been texting me and asking me how things went. Do you feel like how comfortable are you with giving people an update on what happened with the
As
young doctor?
anybody, the good thing about having had Chris Joseph on the show is that we broached both our medical issues, and so many people chimed in that they've had or are having medical issues, and part of that is insurance. So it's been 3 years of not being able to play gigs regularly, and this voice thing being odd, and I can't control it. Sometimes it goes out, sometimes it doesn't. Usually not in front of doctors for whatever reason. Anyway, a friend and fan who's a retired neurologist diagnosed me about a month ago, but the neurologist at Osher didn't see it. She was much younger and very nice person. Young doctors, I find, look at their computer screens while they're talking to you, and essentially looking up what it's supposed to be like on the internet. And I'm like, hell, I can do that, you know. And then she offers me Zoloft, which, you know, if I was in my 30s, I wouldn't mind being zonked out of my head on Zoloft all the time. But I turned that down. I think I've met with 3 young doctors over the last 3 years trying to deal with this, and the first thing they want to do is, and I'm like, well, is Zoloft taking you all out to dinner or something? Why is everybody off?
Right.
I'm coming to you with a vocal problem and trying to reprogram neurons, and you're offering to just zonk me out. So I don't mind so much that I can't sing anymore. Is the deal. Anyway, so I went back to my psychiatrist, and he sent me to a guy who had dealt with this dystonia in the voice before, with a lawyer who he got back to work. So I saw the guy, but unfortunately he wasn't on my insurance plan, so I had to pay big bucks for the office visit and the endoscopy he did. But he saw spasms in my face, he saw spasms in my eye, he saw spasms in my larynx. He said spasmodic dystonia, Botox injection in the vocal cord, and you should be able to sing fine for a year, but give you your fluidity back. But the treatment would cost a lot of money because I'm not in his insurance plan. So I made an appointment with the guy at Ochsner, and he's a great doctor. But doctors, I have a lot of doctor friends, and they're the most competitive people. They're as competitive as athletes. You know, they want to be the best. And so, of course, he hears the diagnosis that this other doctor gave, and of course he's heard of him because it's a small town. He goes, I don't think it's spasmodic dystonia because it doesn't fit this pattern, that pattern, and he thinks it's abductor dystonia. So instead of injecting it in the vocal cords, wants to inject it into the abductor muscle and see if maybe that works. And if it doesn't, try another muscle, but not the vocal cords. We want to avoid the vocal cords at all costs because that's what the other guy wanted to do. But I mean, that's the truth.
Did he give you any good reason to say, like, no, we want to stay away from the vocal cords because X could happen or anything like that? Or did it really seem like a pissing contest?
No. In fact, they were saying it was like really delicate to go into the abductor muscle because it's right next to the spine. So
it's actually more dangerous.
Better to me, man. But I don't have the dough to get it from the guy that has treated what I have, saw it, heard it.
And what about getting a reference from him for another doctor who may be in your...
I'll have to try and find a doctor that's in my insurance plan, which I'm working on doing, who will agree, will agree with the diagnosis and do the treatment. But
they couldn't refer you to anybody for a second opinion?
I tried to ask for that, and he never got back to me about this.
Well, he may. He still may. Who knows? But
he still may.
Because you're looking for a referral, these days you need a freaking referral half the time. You'll never get in.
I just sort of had to accept that, like, okay, it's not gonna. I was hoping I could get it fixed, and I could just, like so many other people, right out there right now, wish I could go back to the life I had before.
Right.
And it's going to take a little while longer. I'm going to have to stay patient. I'm going to have to learn a bit more grace than I already possess. Work way more on forgiveness, the toughest of them all.
Right.
And continue down the path as you are, as anybody who's dealing with a medical issue is. Continue down the path, trusting in the end result, bringing you where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. The biggest joke I think is health insurance is probably the biggest crazy joke, because once you get into it, then you realize, all the rhetoric is bullshit. It's like it is.
It's just money. And God bless them. I mean, if I had a racket and was making billions of dollars off of people, I could maybe learn to just look away from all human suffering and live on my yacht.
Yeah. Nah, I don't think there are guys who need that. Unfortunately.
No. I'm the guy who probably, if I'd have become a rich, famous rock star, I'd have been broke in no time, because as a comedian once said, if there's one guy starving somewhere, it just ruins the whole thing for me.
Right. So you'd be giving it away, helping people out.
I did.
You did. You're right. You wouldn't put everybody to work, and which is even better because then they get something
even
out of it
before
too.
that, like my second ex, when we were still dating, there'd be a knock on the door and there'd be somebody, hey man, I'm short on rent money because of blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, here you go, man. And there was never even a question of pay me back.
Right.
It was a friend who was gotten in trouble. Maybe he owed somebody that was going to kill him, or maybe whatever the fuck. Who cares? It's just money.
just
you
money.
know, and if he was a real friend, he was going to come back and be a real friend again. And if he wasn't, then okay, it didn't cost me that much to find it out, you know. I was just never about money. Growing up really, really poor, always it was a gift to me because there were plenty of times, especially in Cowboy Mouth, where people tried to buy me off with money behind the band's back or that kind of thing, and you just see right through it when you're poor. You know, you just go, people that are dying to be rich would jump at that, and I'm just going to go,
It's not me.
no, I don't really want to be. Well, I just, I'd rather be decent.
Yeah. No, no. I mean, you got a good point there. I'd rather be decent any
like
day of
I,
the week.
like I had a manager, I won't say which one, but I had a manager call me and say, hey, the Yankees have been using your song Invincible for a long time on their Diamond Vision screen, ever since NBC Sports used it on a montage when they won the World Series, and Steinbrenner saw it and he loves it. And they would owe you a lot of money if I went after them. And I said, well, that's great. I'll call Griffin Fred and let him know because we split all the money, all the royalties. And he went, oh, no, you don't have to do that because they use your version, so you can just keep the money. And I was like, no, that's what we do. We share
Right.
everything.
We share.
And then and then I realized like later, oh, that's a manipulating point. He just tries to do something, give somebody in the band something they want, so that then when he needs them, he can go, remember I gave you that, which
Hmm.
is a way of going, remember I could always tell the guys, kind of thing. So managers and record companies just find it easier to deal with one person than four because it
That's
just
why they love
is.
to separate and divide and conquer. Right. Everything's always
Yeah,
divide and conquer. And
we've talked about that in the show before. The Parlophone, when they were going to sign the Beatles, were trying to make Paul the lead singer because he was the cutest one and had a beautiful high voice. And George Martin could easily see that dynamically Lennon was the unspoken leader of the band, and that in fact they were both the leaders, as it were, the lead singers. You
hmm
know, they sang harmony, they sang unison together. They were truly a team.
hmm agreed. And it sort of in all honesty, that's probably one of the things that gave them so much more than everybody else at the time.
Last comments, insurance.
She
Oh,
says,
see, they go away fast.
I think it's the Blue Cross at the moment because your sister was asking her what kind of insurance she has. So she's saying she thinks it's Blue Cross, but she's had different ones and they're all garbage. Shmoo said that. Yeah.
That smooth, yeah. See, and she's a mother of two. I mean, let me talk about like hardworking husband, the American dream, and medical insurance is just a problem in this country. I mean, you ever seen Bullworth?
Right. Right. And that was
And
what, 20 years ago? I mean,
that was 20
geez,
years ago.
that's
Yeah,
yeah.
you know,
And it's not like it's gotten any easier to do any of that. It's
no, it should be. We're supposedly the richest, most educated country in the world, and there should be a system like national health in Canada or in England or in any number of places where it works. Although people in America scream socialism and all that crap when you say it, Canada is not a socialist country. It's a democracy. They vote. Blah blah blah.
well, Shmoo just
It's
made a
just
good point
rhetoric.
too. Right now, the fact that it's tied to employment really is probably the biggest weak. I mean, besides the fact that it's overpriced and doesn't cover enough,
Right,
but
and
the
you have
fact
to
that
have a
it's tied
job.
to insurance, it's been tied to employment, and right. So
Yeah,
that's their little workaround here in the U.S. Um, so anybody who does
that's
anything
keep
outside
factories
of
working. Baby. Keep that wheel grinding.
yeah, and it's funny because I will say, the team that I usually play for can be a pain in the ass for people who are self-employed and people who people's health. Why are we worried about people's health, right? Who cares about people's health? We have so many of
That's
them.
an insurance company.
Yeah, yeah. Their
But I
game
don't
is
know.
definitely not to necessarily.
I don't know. I'm not with them. I'm just saying. Like, for one thing, it's like it's so confusing. A challenging a condition to just have your voice cut out when it wants to, and to you do all your tricks and everything, and it just doesn't work sometimes. And then to have two specialists, actually four specialists, look at it and essentially come up with four different diagnoses. And it's just, and I'm not telling anybody out there that's dealing with medical condition anything they don't already know.
Right.
Because as a dear friend of mine once said, Dr. Charlie Anderson once said to me, all we can do is practice medicine, Paul. You
Right.
practice on every patient and hope to get better. And that's the truth of it. And I admire them for the life choice. As the guy was giving me the endoscopy, he's like, I'm not going to numb it because I want to see as many spasms as I can. So you're going to feel it. And he was very apologetic. And I said, don't apologize. You're trying to help me.
Right.
And when they cut me for the surgery, and they're like, doctors are saying, "Oh man, we're so sorry, we have to change the bandage," but I'm like, "You guys don't apologize. You saved my life." And they go, "Would you come talk to our other patients?"
Right.
Because they're complaining about the shit. But I'm not. Like, if I'm in the hospital, then it must be freaking serious.
You know, it's
So
interesting. Like you're
I'm
talking about your
thankful.
doctor and Kim. We just had an opposite experience. I had to take her to the emergency room the other day. She's having some issues. She's fine, guys. She's just having some nerve pain kind of issues, but you can't get in for months, right? So we wound up having to just go. You know what? We're gonna have to go to the emergency room because we were thinking that we might need to get an ultrasound. So while we're there and we're being seen by the lady, she goes, she gave us her diagnosis. She didn't think it was a clot. It didn't. Nothing else on there was acting like it, but she kept offering us over and over again. But if you'd like me to run the ultrasound, I'll run the ultrasound. And we're like going, well, what do you think? Should we run the ultrasound? Do you think it's something that it could be? And she goes, I really don't think so. I think it's this other thing, and we're satisfied with that. Okay, so you think it's this other thing? We're willing to try that first. We're just coming in. We'll try that first. And then she kept circling back to, but if you want to have the ultrasound, you can have it. You just have to let me know. And I'm like, okay, should we get the ultrasound then? And she's like, no, I don't think that's what it is. Okay, then no, well then we won't worry about the ultrasound right now then. And I just thought it was funny. And then again, we must have circled back to it 3 or 4 times. And I'm like, oh, is this code? Are you trying to say you really need to ask for the ultrasound? I can't recommend it, or
Right,
what?
right,
I
right.
didn't know what was going on there. So,
Can't, and she can't say.
and maybe she can't say. It was really
No, she can't
weird.
say.
Yeah, well, obviously, yeah, they probably have cameras in there watching everything.
Absolutely, and she's legally bound to give you the service if you ask for it. But if you don't, then they would prefer that you didn't because you're not on the right insurance to get the treatment there.
Right.
And you're
Interesting, right?
so. I
So
mean,
maybe
it
I should
goes
have
back
said,
to the
okay, well, let's do the ultrasound then. Yeah, why not? Let's just do the ultrasound then. Here I am
you
thinking that
know
I probably was being very naive. She might have been doing that very thing,
and
going,
who knows? You're like
right,
it's when you're there, when you're in the midst of it, you're so frustrated because I don't know who to talk to. Like, my
right,
wife works in the medical industry, and it's confusing for her. You
right,
know,
right,
so so you I come home and I do an extra bit of meditation to calm myself down and I accept what is. And on the days that I can sit and sing at the piano, I do. I don't think about playing in public. I think about, can I just sit and sing and enjoy today? That would be awesome.
right.
And if I can, okay, I'll go do something else. But whatever. It's first world problems still. I'm healthy.
Yep.
I'm happy. I'm well tended to. Everything is everything.
I did think it was funny on Monday. We were comparing doctor's appointments and like, yeah, well, and which is why we didn't do a show on Monday. We both had doctor's
Yeah, my
appointments.
friend Mary Kornhauser wrote to me. Mary's a great playwright and screenwriter, and she posted on my Facebook page. Oh, it's so cute that you guys make your appointments at the same time. And I posted back. Posted back. Yes, we hold hands on the way.
Yes, yes. We try to, knock out two birds with one stone. Two birds with one stone. So
Or two birds while I'm stoned, or something. I don't know.
something like that. So guys, we're
Yeah.
gonna try. I think we're gonna try a Kickstarter soon. And so you guys pitch in if you feel like it.
What's
We're
this
big
for?
sellers.
What's this for?
This is actually so. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we first started the show, we were working on the free software, right? It was the free, and everybody kept bitching and complaining because you were out of sync, or the person calling in, like once they would call in, everything would go haywire, and so we spent half of our time figuring out, how to make everything work right in it, right? And it was always hit or miss every day. Who knows what you got? So we demoed this software. Let's see if this software works. It does. But you get it for 60 days, and our 60 days is coming to an end. So
Oh, what is this? The VMix?
the VMix thing, yes, yes. So my
Okay, so
idea
now,
was to go, hey, if you guys want to, the way you can do this thing with, it's like I was going to set up for half the cost of the thing, which is a few $100s, and then but you can do stretch goals that cover the whole thing. So Kickstarter's weird because if you don't get your amount, they give everybody their money back. You set an amount that you're aiming for, and if you don't get it, they just give everybody their money back. But one of the things we're thinking about giving away, because they always give stuff away at certain levels, you pay at higher tier levels. So we're thinking at the $30 or $40 level, just doing coffee cups with our with the this one doesn't have a logo on it, but eventually our another cup of coffee logo will be on there.
well, let me ask you this. I mean, do we have to go through Kickstarter? Could we just like do a
Nah, we could
thing
always
like
just say, hey, here's our PayPal address, just send us money. But it seemed like Kickstarter would be a way to do it, officially or
or
something.
GoFundMe doesn't make you give the money
GoFundMe,
back, right?
I GoFundMe. I think I had a GoFundMe. Yeah, GoFundMe's are a little different. I don't know. Somebody said yes. Oh, she's talking to Mr.
Yes,
Blue.
Mr. Blue.
Yeah, she was answering his question. Did you see his comment earlier? He
No.
said we actually would save money with healthcare for all, and the rich can still have their boutique medical system.
Well, Freddie would know. He's been through it, man. See, that's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. Like, give people a chance that have really been through it, a chance to speak their mind. I mean, I know you and I like to keep it light. We like to have some laughs, but I'm not too disappointed when it drifts around to this because that's also a relief. It's as much a relief as a good laugh is, because people out there that are going through it, or that have gone through it, just knowing they're not alone, just knowing that, yeah, it's one more thing that ties us together as families in the spirit.
Yes, especially
It's
people who have to deal
struggling.
with, yeah, and dealing with the healthcare. Whenever you have to deal with them, you get a different perspective. Like I bet you 60, 70% of the people just don't even have to deal with it because either they don't have people sick, they don't have older people sick, and they're just out for a while.
I find that the American healthcare system went into decline when Dr. Marcus Welby retired because
Welby was,
a certain quality of healthcare that Dr. Welby delivered. He made house calls. He had a leather bag that was aged but not damaged. He had that. He had grease in his hair. It was a time when the doctor still wore the grease in his hair but looked good. He had the young assistant with the motorcycle, which was cool for the kids. But when the ship went down, it was Dr. Welby that came in.
but then it
You
was
know, so
Bones too, right? Wasn't there Bones like the new Dr. Welby? And then I think there was a Hauser in there somewhere, like Doogie.
Bones.
Bones, the
Oh,
guy from
Bones, but
Bones.
yeah, Dr. House was great, but he was so rude. He was like the Doctor Strange of the doctors, whereas
Yes.
Dr. Welby was always kind. Dr. House was going to tell you your life was over and didn't matter, but Dr. Welby would give you like a piece of cake
What about Doogie
and
Howser?
not.
What about Doogie Howser?
Well, I mean, he grew up to be Neil Patrick Harris. So what can you say about the guy? One of the most talented guys working today.
He is a funny guy, isn't he? He's crazy
Funny. He's
funny.
an incredible singer. He's an incredible actor. He's an incredible
He's a
dancer.
singer?
That's.
He's a
Oh
dancer?
my God! You never seen him do that stuff? The guy's an unbelievable talent. Like seriously, unbelievable
Yeah.
talent.
Huh. I mean, I
He's a
like his
big.
acting. He's such a good. He's so swarmy.
He's a good. He's a big theater guy, and he does that kind of stuff, and he's an incredible singer and dancer.
What about Quincy? Did you like Quincy?
Well, I mean, who didn't like Jack Klugman? Who didn't like, because you already had a tie to him from The Odd Couple.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you were like, it was like an old uncle coming back to be grouchy about your medical condition.
You know
It
what
was
was
all
interesting
right.
about that show? They'd actually
Sports
use.
right.
They would reuse shots from other episodes because they would just either
They're
they
funny.
wouldn't. Dude, yeah, they would like. Well, we didn't get a chance to get this shot, so we're just gonna use this reveal from another episode again. It's crazy, right?
What are you gonna do?
What'd she say? Also, software purchase. Are you committing to not quitting for? Yes, we did talk about that. We are talking about maybe going through the end of the summer, right? She's asking if we committed to, if we do this thing, how long would we do the show for? And
Um,
we were
At the end
saying,
of the summer sounds reasonable.
yeah, we were saying we'd at least go through the summer, and after that, who
And then
knows?
maybe, yeah, maybe we'll get a sponsorship from a coffee company or something.
Who knows? Maybe at that point. And yes, we would own it. It's not a rental subscriber thing. It isn't. And I would put all of that stuff in the Kickstarter, and who knows, or whatever it would be. But it's only $700. It's not like it's really expensive. It's not crazy expensive, but it's probably too expensive during COVID for either you and I to go, you know what? Because you and I didn't even do Zoom because it was like, how much? $15 a month, or what is it? $5 a month? I don't know. $8, $10. No, I have so many subscriptions now I can't even keep track.
Right.
And
I can't. I really can't.
it is kind of crazy. But the reason
And
I
every
chose
time I
this
try
one
to
is because it's
cancel
cheap.
one, I literally cancel the wrong one every time.
You literally
Yeah,
canceled the wrong one.
yeah. Google Play does something. I'm not sure what it does because I don't play games on Google. But then when I turn it off, bad stuff happens. So I'm turn it back on, man. It's only a couple dollars a month. I don't know what it's keeping going, but
But
something
apparently it's
bad
keeping
happens. When I
something.
turn it off.
Let's
I don't
see.
know.
We had a bunch of people asking questions here. Let's see. Software purchase. Are you committing to not quitting for 7 rounds? Yes. In this subscription, we own it. Yes. Unrelated. Neil Patrick Harris reads the Henry Higgins books by Beverly Cleary, and they're so good. Stockard Channon does Ramona. So what are these? The Harris reads the Henry Higgins books, or Huggins? Henry Huggins.
And, I met Stockard Channing many years ago, in 1989, when I was working on that show for
She the one
Fox
from
up in Boston.
Greece? The girl from
Yes,
Greece? Yes, just making
Rizzo
sure.
from Greece.
Rizzo,
But she's
yes.
done many other movies and plays, of course, a wonderful actress. But, of course, for guys our generation, she was Rizzo in Greece. And so I made friends with the gaffer, the head lighting guy on the show, Dan Gassner. And we were working along. He just really liked me for some reason. I don't know why. I was reading books on set, and I don't know. I always thought of myself as a fairly miserable guy, but they seemed to really like me, the people on the crew. And he said, "Hey, my girlfriend Susan is coming to town, and I'd like her to meet you. Would you meet us for a drink at the bar Friday?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So what's she do? And he goes, "Oh, she's working on a play in Boston. I mean, in New York." And I go, "Cool." And I just thought she was in lighting too. His girlfriend Susan was in lighting like him. And then I walk into the bar to have a drink, and it's Stockard Channing, whose real name is Susan Stocker. And I literally stopped, and they said, like, one of the least graceful things I could say was, "Wow, you've been in a lot of my dreams." But they didn't take it personally. They laughed, and they were great folks, and uh, invited me to spend the weekend at their ashram up in Maine. And Dan and I had worked a 20-hour day at Copley Square in Boston. I was so tired, literally my feet. I'd worn the wrong shoes, and my feet were bleeding. So he goes, "Look, I got a nice sports car. Just get in. I'll drive us to Maine. You go to sleep." So I slept. It was like, I don't know how long up from Boston to way up in Maine to their ashram. But we get there, and he tells me, "Oh, we have a friend staying with us painting at the house. His name's Carl." So I'm picturing some hippie guy, like, doing him a favor and painting the house in exchange for living there. I'm like, "Ah, cool." And I walk in, there's this guy, he's got these large abstract, beautiful paintings. And I was like, "Oh, wow, man, I like your stuff." Like, really intelligent sounding, like your stuff. And then they all said they're going out for dinner, and I'm like, I'm really exhausted. And no, just stay here. So they all leave, and I pick up Today in American Art, or whatever the magazine was, and he's on the cover. Called I think Palazzo was his name, and the guy who just said, "I like your stuff," was the guy who's featured in the magazine. So I was just proving to them over and over again that I was a rube, but they still invited me to do fun stuff. They're lovely folks.
Yes. You ever heard of B Mike? Um, he does. He's got these murals. He does murals, and it's kind of with spray paints and whatever. He's got this big old warehouse over, the Franklin area where Vaughn's and that used to be. Anyway, he's got like a gallery over there. We've done several things. Chris and I have filmed several things for the NAACP through his little place over there. Just different performances and where he's painting and doing his graffiti type painting in the background. Stuff looks amazing.
Nice. Nice.
And he got this big giant old warehouse. This place is massive. It's like one of those ones that goes on for like 2 blocks. It's crazy. Like you're inside of a building for a whole fucking block, walking from room to room. And checking out Dr. Horrible's sing along blog with Neil Patrick Harris. He also did Hedwig on Broadway.
Yeah, the guy's accomplished, man. He's amazing. You should check out some of his stuff for sure.
I've seen him. Obviously, I've seen him acting a whole lot. I mean, I love him in movies. He always has shit. He was in Starship Troopers. Um, so there you go, right
Yeah,
there.
there
He
you
was
go,
also in the
right there.
one with what was the one that David Fincher did that was based on that? It was the one where the wife is a psycho and pretends uh, that she was abducted and murdered and blames it on the husband. It's a David Fincher movie.
I, I don't know.
Anyway, he plays the lover and he gets his throat cut while he's having sex with the psycho girlfriend. Yeah.
That sounds classy. That's a good one.
Yeah, no, it was a great movie though. It's David Fincher.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, yeah,
You
you
know,
know,
it depends.
yeah.
Some of these things in the hands of lesser people are just whatever. But you put them in the hands of good people and suddenly it's art.
And it's quality stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And so here we are at the end of another show because now we're talking movies. We might as well save it for Luis on Friday.
Yes, because we have to talk about Highlander because I'm all excited because we're redoing Highlander.
And we should save that for Luis because he'll probably be more in line with your thoughts on it. And
Yes,
I
yes.
think that's a good, healthy discussion for the superhero review.
Yes, so look at that. Freddie's agreeing with me there about B Mike's studio. I'm going to have to find out the name of it and get the info and maybe on one of our next uh, maybe on one of our next shows or in our descriptions I can put a little thing to it where you can go see some of his work online because it's ridiculous. The guy's
Nice.
unbelievable. Not only that, he just does it in minutes. Like you'll come there and he kind of gets the outline of things going like before the video, and then during the video, these multiple performances, you capturing him adding other stuff. And I mean, he is just, it's like, it's the craziest. It's not like when you're writing a song, you have to may have to think about a line. There might be a few of them that come together, but then you just have to stop for a second and think. It's just like it's already here, and all he's doing is mechanically doing it. You know,
Crazy.
it is. It's not like you see him getting a perspective and trying to figure out what the next. No, 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 no. He's already got it. It's like
Right. Of course. Of course. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
that kind of talent just makes you go. I don't even know where that kind of stuff comes from because you can't even make that
Well,
in your mind. You can't.
you do though, because you do the same thing with your songwriting and your own playing. It's sort of that thing when you let go of trying is where the purity of or
Of,
the essence delivers the purity of it.
and you're right. I mean, I do know. I mean, it's funny because the melody for me, it's always the melodies and stuff that come first. Like I've got all of that
And
work. It comes.
it comes.
The
That's what
lyrics
happened.
part
That's
of it
just
is like, all right, now how do I, give meaning to what this is?
that's interesting.
It's a different,
Yeah.
yeah. The lyrics are always a different. They come from a different place, but my connection to
I just
whatever
have
it
always
is,
had the habit of like when they come together.
my
I
connection.
start singing.
Yep, I'll hear the
It starts.
melodies, but it's all melodies. There's, you seem to be able to hear because I'll make vowel sounds, and I heard Bono works the same way. Like Bono just sings vowel sounds basically when they're working up tunes and things, and then when they listen back, he hears moments that he likes. It's all based on the vowel sounds, and so I kind of do the same thing. And when you're going through, you're always those vowel sounds lead you in directions for words, you know, and so you always feel like you're hearing something. But I just think that's your relationship to the force or whatever it is words are part of your relationship with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no, the whole thing comes complete to me. I'm walking down the street singing a song over and over again. I say, who is this song? It's driving me crazy. And then I realize, oh, I'm just making this up. And it's already got the words and melody and
It's all
arrangement
there.
done.
So the funny thing is
Yeah.
that you might be bouncing around with songs in your head and you don't know it because you figure they're just done songs. You just haven't actually been taking the time to see
Well,
whether or not.
I'm not singing regularly. So
That's
when I'm
true.
singing regularly is when it's much easier to work them out.
Yeah.
But Chris sort of inspired me. Chris Finney last week when we were having him on, he inspired me when he said he always wanted to make a crooner album with me. So I just started sitting at the piano, and that's a bit lower range, and it's a different kind of singing. So I'm trying to sort of relax into that style and hope that it helps with the therapy of getting the voice just working again.
right off the bat, guitars, you're kind of tied into those A's and D's and G's and stuff,
Right.
just the nature of the instrument. But when you get on the piano, yeah, you can start moving things down instead of, because A's tough.
Yeah.
So instead of A, you can do it in G or F sharp or something.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Right. I have been doing that, and it's been a lot of fun. So we'll see. I'm the only time I try to stay upbeat, and the only times that I'm not upbeat are when I've gotten my hopes up. Before the doctor visit, and I'm thinking, okay, we're really close now, and
Right.
then it goes a different way, and then you have a moment of self pity, but then, like everybody, you sit and you breathe through it, and you remember all the gifts in your life, and you stay the course.
Hmm. So Chicago Lou, you saw he just jumped on. He goes, so what are we talking about? Um,
Tell him, dude. Cause it's going to be a big talk on Friday, buddy.
Highlander, dude. Did you see Chad Stileski is doing the reboot of Highlander? They just cast Superman. Your favorite, right? Henry Cavill. So
Oh,
I know your favorite. He's
the
not
Darth Vader of Superman.
the Darth Vader of Superman. Yes, yes. So we'll see. I mean, I heard he was really good in what
We'll
movie?
save it for Luis. We'll save it for Luis. He'll probably be siding with you.
Yeah. Oh, about making this new Highlander.
Oh, it'll be two young guys against the old man again. But let's save it for
You
Friday.
know,
I
one of
know
my favorite
Chicago.
things about it was, remember the way they did transitions in that movie when they kept going between
Yes.
the. Well, remember how just well done it was. I remember being like, that is fucking awesome. And you never see people use those transitions, right? I mean, that is a transition that almost belongs to them. We were talking about that the other day. I don't know if you and I were talking about it, but like Star Wars owns that crawl. Like at the beginning of the movie, they get to put all the exposition right out in the. They don't have to spend time in the plot explaining what's
Right.
going on. The exposition is right there. I mean, right off the bat, that is such a handicap for those kind of movies. You don't have to spend the first 30 minutes working all that shit out. There it is.
Right.
Here we go. We're gonna put you in the middle of the action.
Let's go. Put you right in the
You know
action.
that
That's
I think
right.
that those are, from what I understand, those are around because of Brian De Palma when he first watched the movie with George, because a bunch of those directors did, Spielberg, De Palma, Scorsese. Anyway, De Palma's like, "What the fuck is going on? I don't understand what's going on, George. You got to put some kind of thing in the beginning to let us know what the hell's going on."
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, probably some of
Great.
the best advice. So he took it to heart, but he's like, "I don't get this with
Oh
the
yeah.
princess and the guy. Who's the guy? And who's this? What is going on?"
That's
And
great. That's
yeah,
great.
it
Well, it
is.
is a feature now, and like you said, it belongs to them.
It definitely belongs to them. They own it. You can't. Nobody else can touch it. If they do,
All
then you
right.
know it's a mock-up. So yes, I guess that's enough for one day.
Yeah, that's today's show, and we'll see you on Friday with Chicago Lou and the superhero review, and a Highlander debate, and a lot of Mandalorian talk. We're digging the Mandalorian.
And we'll talk about the Mandalorian, right? And I'm gonna talk to Frenchie again, and we'll try to get this sorted out if he still wants to do the show now that he's seen what it is. Please stay on the air. Oh, you're talking
Yeah,
about
we'll see.
past today? Yes, yes. We're gonna stay on for a
Yes,
while.
we'll be on through the summer.
Well, we haven't guaranteed that yet. No, no, but we think we'll be on for through the summer, at least.
We'll see. What the hell? We'll figure something
Nah,
out.
but look, if we start a Kickstarter, we promise we'll be on through the summer. How about that? That's kind of what
Okay,
she
but
was
if the
getting at.
Kickstarter
She's like, hey,
doesn't
we
work,
do the Kickstarter, and then you guys leave a week later. What the fuck? I get it. I
no, if
get
we
it.
do the Kickstarter and raises the money, we'll stay on through the summer. But if it doesn't, it's been fun, and everything ends sometime. Look, Ellen's even ending her show.
Yes, and we could always change it back to what we were doing before, and everybody can complain about. Not everybody complained, and to be honest, probably most of the people that were
There
complaining
is
might have
no
left already
pandemic.
anyway. I know.
I could just
Apparently,
come
there's
over.
no pandemic.
I could just come over to your house for coffee in the morning, and we could sit together and talk about stuff.
Yeah, maybe we could do the show. If we did it that way, I think we'd probably do the show once a week. Probably 3 times a week might be too much for us to get together. Could you see us being like, oh, shit, not again. It's Monday. I forgot
Oh
about this.
no, man! I could drive uptown. Fucking
Oh,
hell.
fucking hell. Oh, my God. I got to be there by when? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we'd have to pick a day.
Yeah, I think it would probably switch to one day if we had to switch to that. But, well,
Yeah.
we'll take this one step at a time. But we are having fun. And speaking of which, I still think we need to find out what, oh, my God, the Beatles thing. I want to find out what he's. I got to listen to it. I got to catch up a couple of episodes, so that
I might have to have Jonathan back in, and
so we can have Jonathan back in, so we can argue with him about the Beatles.
that'd be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of arguing to do.
There were a couple of guests we were going to repeat, so at some point we'd have to do that.
Why are the folks complaining? No, nobody's complaining anymore. See, you people are all the lovely people. Early on, we had complainers. Now we're left with just the fun people. The complainers left, which usually they do.
Who's complaining?
Well, I had some of my friends going, Paul's voice is out of sync, and I can't even watch it. It drives me crazy.
Oh,
His
your
voice is
audio
out of
friend.
sync. Well, I had some audio friends. I had some other friends that were like, I'm like, dude, we're using low tech. We're not paying for anything.
Right.
But anyway, since we switched to this thing, we could bring in. One day we had 4 callers in that day. Of course, we did have
How
some.
about that?
You remember? And we had Keith Spira and Lou in on the same day. That's true. We never even tried. And we kept. It is easier now when you just send them a link than trying to explain to them. Remember how we'd spend like 30 minutes just getting them. So you do have an account with Skype, right? I don't know if I have a Skype account. I have a Zoom account. It's like, yeah, we're not doing Zoom. Remember those conversations? We haven't had to do that in such a long time when we have guests. So anyway, it did get easy. It did get easier. Shmoo guessing. Shmoo, I tell you what. We get this money. Shmoo, you can come be a guest on the show. We'll give away guests. Whoever puts in the most money can be a guest on the show if they want. Or
Bang.
Or we'll put executive produced by Bigger Than Another Cup of Coffee, or either one of our names. We'll put their name. Brought to you by, and their name will be bigger than everybody's name.
Sounds great, Mike.
Anyway, have fun.
I'll see you on Friday.
We'll see you on Friday. Thank you guys for hanging, and we'll see you then. Bye now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I used to keep my money in a cookie jar. It was shaped like a cat, it was a present from my brother. I read a lot of books, but I couldn't see between the lines. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. Well, her hair is as black as an alleyway, and it used to be red, and it used to be blonde. Truth is, her hair changes color all the time. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind. I'll have another cup of coffee if you don't mind.